Good morning, Pittsburgh. Welcome to Pitt to the Point, live from the state-of-the-art Pitt Studios. I'm Vineet Joshi.
And I'm Jacqueline Napier. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Pitt to the Point covers everything going on at the University of Pittsburgh.
All the way to the point. We cover news for the entire Pittsburgh area. We'll be discussing everything going on in the city, from entertainment, politics, and sports, to keeping up with what's happening on campus at the University of Pittsburgh as well.
But most importantly, Jackie, we're getting your folks ready to start your Pittsburgh day off right.
Our most recent highlight at Pitt to the Point dealt with the recent Russian invasion of the independent state of Ukraine.
And we were honored to interview Pitt economics professor Dr. Timothy Milovanov on his experience in Kiev when he and his family were suddenly faced with ballistic Russian attacks on the country's capital.
Take a look.
So, Dr. Milovanov, what is your personal experience right now being inside Kiev during these attacks? Of course, it must be jarring and incredibly scary at some points to be inside that region while this is all going on.
It's a combination of a number of emotional responses. Usually attacks or the escalation happens at night. It could be at 3 or 4, or in this case, it was at 5 a.m. And when the first attack came, basically, in theory, we expected it to come, or we contemplated the possibility. Everyone had what we call get to safety protocol, where if something really unexpected happens, we even drilled and trained them. We did that at the Kyiv School of Economics. We did it, I did it with my family, with my extended family. We all have plans. But you know how these plans are. You wake up because there's a loud explosion, and you're not quite sure because you're sleeping, it's 6 a.m. or 5 a.m. And is it really an explosion, or is it a furniture, being moved by your neighbor? And because you kind of, you at that moment, the first 30 seconds, you're not quite sure. Then you go, to the, check on the social networks, on the official news, and there's nothing there yet, or conflicting reports or something like that. So, we had in place specific protocols at the Kyiv School of Economics where top management or respective departments immediately call a meeting. So we called the meeting, and within 30 minutes we were online and we talked to each other. And some people were actually in the area of the explosions, and they said that it were missiles coming in, and air-to-ground missiles or air-to-surface missiles and ballistic missiles, and they actually seen them hitting the city. So then we knew that it is not, a neighbor moving furniture, and we're being a little bit overly protective of our families. So then we, once that has become clear, and actually it is very important when you have, when you end up in situations like that, have this kind of plan where you check up with people, and these people can tell you what's happening in their areas, because it might feel very safe, but where you are, but 2 blocks from there could be, tanks attacking. So you need to know that, and it's not always up to date on the news or on social networks or in press releases by the government officials. So then, everyone was getting to safety. Everyone had a plan depending on the individual circumstances. So it was a bit funny because we did get to safety. I have, my sister's house in the suburb, 20 or 30 minutes away. We got there, but it was close to the military air base, which was later in the afternoon taken over by Russian paratroopers, and then they were fighting, and by the end of the day, the paratroopers were kicked out and killed and dispersed by the Ukrainian military. So we would get into safety, we felt, but we were, there were jets flying over, and there were columns of tanks moving, and scrambling, military brigades. And so, by the time we got there, we sort of, wow, we should find another place. And so we had to relocate to another suburb. But, currently we're sufficiently far away from the activities. But I think the other critical issue that people forget is they hope for the best. There is a little bit, for the first half an hour or an hour, there is a little bit of this hope. We are very optimistic animals, humans, we persevere. And so we believe, we are overconfident and optimistic that things will work out, and they will work out. But in critical situations like that, we tend to delay hoping for the best. And that means that sometimes you can't get out from the area which is danger. Where there is danger. So, people who, I have a classmate, and he wanted to get out 5 hours later from Kyiv, and he could not. And he's still in Kyiv. So you have to act fast. So a bit of messy thing.
Absolutely. In these situations, it's just kind of fight or flight. The Ukraine has made a plea to any able citizen who wants a weapon to take up arms. Are you anticipating having to possibly engage in armed combat with the Russian army in the streets?
I have not taken up the arms, but it is true that there are, even in Kiev right now, you just need a passport and a really quick background check, and you get Kalashnikov or something else. And there are video reports where the weapons are being distributed, and these are self-defense units. They're not militia or unruly. There is a structure to it, but they're being formed and mobilized real quick. And our school, we're operational online, believe it or not. Okay, we canceled all the classes, conferences, and events, but our analysts and communications are working, and our staff is helping set up hotlines for self-defense units for people to enlist. And so, from the strategic perspective of the government, it's really smart thing to do. You increase the cost of invasion and occupation. Now, at a personal level, we have a number of people, both at the top management of the university, of the school, and also among faculty and staff who enlisted, over the last 24 or 48 hours. And there are others, and that depends on individual circumstances. Some people are trying to get their children to safety, Some people have parents who cannot move or, need help. So everyone is behaving differently. But at this time, there is still, kind of a lot of uncertainty, but the prevailing mood is resilience out of people who I'm in contact with, and I'm running management checks twice a day. I think only one person is a little bit shaken. The others are just working, whatever their plan is. So I don't think people fully realize what has happened, that we're in the middle of war in Europe, and it's missiles shooting on major cities in Ukraine, but everyone is busy doing their job or getting to safety.
And of course, we thank Dr. Milovanov for his time and input as we keep him and his family in our thoughts and prayers.
In response to the struggle in Ukraine, members of the Pitt Parents 2025 Facebook group have sought to help Pitt students who have family ties in Ukraine.
Although these students may not be able to return home for spring break, the parents group is trying to aid them in financial funds in the form of gift cards and coupons. Here's a closer look.
That's right, Vineet. Members of the Pitt Parents 2025 Facebook group have taken it upon themselves to provide financial assistance in the form of gift cards or coupons. Of course, we hope those affected in any way by the struggle in Ukraine at least don't have to worry about their survival here. Please consider contributing if you are able to.
Going back to our first episode ever of Pitt to the Point, we covered President Biden's visit to the Steel City to discuss his infrastructure package unveiled last year.
Well, last Friday, the Fern Hollow Bridge on Forbes Avenue in Frick Park collapsed under several cars and a Port Authority bus. Thousands of Pittsburghers commute across that bridge every day, but fortunately, due to the poor road conditions, there were fewer drivers on the road at the time of the collapse. There were reported 10 minor injuries after the collapse, but fortunately, there were no serious injuries or deaths. The bridge was deemed to be in poor condition last September, and many residents had reported support beams having been rusted through as early as 4 years ago, but no action was taken to make repairs.
A bridge more than 50 years old, I think it was 150 years, it says 50 years old, but I thought it was older, collapsed right here in Pittsburgh. It had been rated in poor condition for the past 10 years. What you all know, if you don't, you should know, there are another 3,300 bridges here in Pennsylvania, some of which are just as old and just as decrepit condition as that bridge was.
An interesting and timely visit indeed. You rarely encounter such coincidences.
On the political front, we covered Pennsylvania Governor Tom Wolf's annual budget address, marking the unofficial start of the budget season for the Commonwealth.
For more on this, here's our political reporter, Jamie Ely. Jamie?
The community is anxiously awaiting an almost $160 million decision. Governor Tom Wolf's proposed state budget for next year calls for an additional $7.7 million to Pitt. This money primarily goes towards providing in-state students with tuition assistance. The proposed state budget, which is earmarking a total $44 million, is currently being negotiated by lawmakers in Harrisburg. Besides assisting education, a large portion of the budget will be going towards PA's crumbling infrastructure. County executive lawmakers have until July 1st to pass the budget, meaning the Pitt community will be held in suspense while their financial aid hangs in the balance. For Pitt to the Point, I'm political reporter Jamie Ely. Jackie, Vineet.
Thank you so much, Jamie. Coming up, we'll be looking back to our interview with Pitt Police Chief James Loftus,
as well as a closer look at our cover of Black History Month and some Medical Minute highlights. So stick around for more right here on Pitt to the Point. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Pitt to the Point.
This episode, we're covering our news highlights from the past month.
During our coverage of campus safety, we had the pleasure of sitting down with Pitt's Chief of Police to discuss his role in keeping us safe.
For more on that, we go to our City Beat reporter, Ryan Derstowitz.
Pitt to the Point's Margot Rensel sat down with the chief of the Pitt Police, James Loftus, to discuss safety on campus while being an inner-city school and the different ways the Pitt Police are keeping the students as well as the community safe while they're in Oakland. Here's what Mr. Loftus had to say about safety as a whole.
Good morning, and thank you so much for joining us today. So first of all, I wanted to know, how long have you been the chief of police for the University of Pittsburgh?
Good morning, Margo. Thanks for having me. I've been here 8 years. I'm a Pittsburgh native. I did most of my policing along with my wife in the Miami-Dade Police Department. We each had 30 years there before I retired and came home. Natural progression to really want to police in your hometown. I'm enjoying that. And on the personal connection, we have 2 daughters who are here as well as students.
Awesome. So speaking of your daughters, how does being a city school affect the safety of students like your daughters?
You know, it's a great question. You know, when you think of colleges and universities, we probably all grew up with the idea of a walled university. We certainly are nothing like that. You know, we're extended in a number of different places. Our standard for policing as it is, and it's a little confusing at times. You think of any 500 yards from any university owned or leased building, and that's where our footprint is. That's where our jurisdiction is. So because it's an inner city campus, you have a lot of potential for pedestrian vehicle conflicts, and we have more than our share of those, unfortunately.
So you obviously interact with the community. You obviously interact with the community in Oakland. So how do you interact with the community and students, keeping them both safe together in one community region?
That's a great question. Each year before school starts, we have a number of outreach programs that we do in local parks, trying to get our residents and sometimes our landlords and tenants together with our students and meet on an informal level as opposed to a business level.
Very nice, very nice. So what does the Pitt Police do to keep students safe?
We nag. That's what we do. And the things we nag about are very simple things, and that is primarily awareness. I mentioned before pedestrian vehicle conflict. Think about it. We have our students here, our faculty and staff, who have things on their minds. Maybe they have some type of listening device on their ears as they enter into intersections. Those intersections are sometimes occupied with vehicles driven by folks who are on the way to the many hospitals that we have here. They're distracted as well. So we have distracted motorists, we have distracted pedestrians, and we've had that get together and sometimes catastrophic consequences.
Student safety is one of Pitt Police's top priority. It is important that every student does their part to not only keep themselves safe, but to keep their friends and other students safe as well. For Pitt to the Point, I'm Pitt Beat reporter Ryan Derstowitz. Vineet, Jackie?
Thank you so much, Ryan. Looking back on Black History Month, we covered Claire Sheedy, a contributing editor of the Pitt News, to shed light on a key example of Black excellence.
I'm Claire Sheedy, and I'm the assistant visual editor and a news writer on Val Njai, who is the Alumni Association president, and she graduated from the University of Pittsburgh in 1971. Going in, I researched the Computer Center in Takeover 1 because it was interesting, and 2, I was told she was involved, but I learned through the process that wasn't a huge part of like what the story became, because that wasn't part of our conversation. But yeah, I talked to Val and I talked to one of her mentees. Honestly, I feel I'm happy that we got to spotlight her. I think her story is really something that I that should be spread, and I feel like confident and good about that. I hope she likes it, I guess, is my only thing. If she's happy with it, and if that's good enough for me.
An amazing package on such an inspirational figure. It was truly a highlight to celebrate Black History Month.
Well, it's been quite a tumultuous few years during the COVID pandemic.
A lot of confusion and hardship for everyone, including high school and college-age students regarding mental health.
With more, here's our medical reporter, Tyler Vandenberg. Tyler, what have you got for us?
Thank you, Jackie and Vineet. The past 2 years have really highlighted the importance of mental health. With more on the impact of COVID-19 on mental health, here's Pitt to the Point medical reporter Vineet Joshi.
To make for a smoother transition back to campus, the university enabled students to order free COVID test kits to ensure they have a negative test upon returning. However, if students or staff need a COVID test when on campus, they can schedule to take one through the university website. Testing takes place at the O'Hara Student Center. Asymptomatic subjects are tested in the first floor dining room, whereas those showing symptoms are tested just outside under the large white tent. The Student Center is open for testing Monday through Friday from noon to 6 p.m. But despite the return to in-person classes, many students are still grappling with the toll the pandemic has taken on their mental health, a phenomenon that many mental health experts are well aware of.
I think the two biggest things that I'm seeing are, the isolation and quarantine component of people are just not having that in-person interaction. People aren't getting those sort of, hey, how are you doing type check-ins. And then I think we're coming to realize that those are a lot more meaningful than we previously thought. I think another component is just the unpredictability. There's been a lot of happiness research done. The biggest factor in happiness and a sense of well-being usually has to do with feeling like you have some sense of predictability or control over what's going on around you.
And instead, a lot of young people, their experience has been that they don't have control, and they may have set all these goals, but they're not actually going to happen, or at least not in the way they had hoped.
However, despite these challenges, we can still take measures to keep our spirits high.
this really sucks, right? It's really, really hard. And so I think it's really important that people have a place just to really express their sense of anger and their sense of grief over this.
The university also offers a variety of counseling services for students, including group therapy for anxiety and depression.
Thank you for covering that important story, Vineet. It's really nice to see this greater awareness of the importance of mental health. If you or someone you know is interested in receiving support from the University Counseling Center, more information is available online at studentaffairs.pitt.edu/cc. For Pitt to the Point, I'm your medical reporter, Tyler Vandenberg. Tori?
Thank you. A lot of us view the doctor as someone always available to us, who we can always go to and trust with our health. However, for many, the burdens of money and negative past experiences leave them out of the hospital. Pitt to the Point's Jackie Napier talked to Dr. Jim Withers, a man trying to close those gaps and change how we treat homeless communities.
Dr. Jim Withers is the founder of the Street Medicine Institute, a powerful global movement for social change and healthcare equality.
I had a patient come in the hospital. It was a cold winter, and this guy had been on the street for years. I didn't know him, and I tried to convince him to stay in the hospital. He was insisting on leaving, and I thought my people skills were pretty good at that point, but he finally just said, "I'm sorry, I got to go," and he left, and I learned that he froze to death. And of course, it was a tragedy and really shook me up, but it also kind of challenged me to say, well, you're looking for a new arena, an opportunity to try to reach out to people. And so maybe it's right here in Pittsburgh. Maybe you don't have to go overseas to find these experiences. And so that's when I began really looking at some way to go out under bridges here in Pittsburgh and get to know the people and maybe learn from them how to do medicine differently. And pretty soon I had a practice from one bridge to another with referrals from homeless people to other homeless people. And I was in a different world really quickly, but I couldn't turn my back on it because I realized that as far as the people on the streets were concerned, they were very disillusioned with healthcare, bitter, hurt. And they were not about to go seeking care. Many said, I'd rather die than go to the hospital. And many of them were disillusioned with shelters and other things. And so the only way to make it work was to try to start where they were and begin treating them. I realized I needed a guide. So I found a guy who had been homeless when he was younger, and he was taking blankets and food out to people. And I asked him if I could come along, and he said, okay, just don't dress like a doctor. And he used stronger language. He said, don't be a jerk. And so I found a book that has a chapter in it on how to dress like a homeless person. And so I said, okay, I can do this. So there I was putting dirt in my hair and on my clothes and stuff, because I really wanted to get it right. And I showed up, and Mike said, well, you've got the look, let's see if you can keep up. And really, it's a privilege to be welcomed into someone else's world and understand healthcare from that perspective. From the system side, you're just saying, well, why can't they cooperate? Why can't they show up on time? Why can't they get a job? Why can't they do this or that? And well, if you're really asking those questions, then you should go and sit with someone and ask them why, rather than just use that as a phrase to dismiss them. So we have people with high blood pressure and asthma and some diabetes. There's a lot of mental health illness, probably more than you'd think. You look at folks and you say, well, that person looks like they can get a job. Well, if you get to know them, you realize that they really are pretty disabled. And that's a big part of it, is navigating people into mental health services. Addictions, of course, we do a lot of harm reduction with clean needles and Narcan. And there are folks in town who are doing Suboxone on the street now. Our biggest recent cause of death is overdose by far.
At the start of the COVID-19 pandemic, Street Medicine worked with the mayor's office to set up sites with toilets, hand washing stations, and water supplies.
There's a lot of initial stigma and negativity across the country directed at people on the street. And then we had to find new protocols, new ways of going into the camps. We had to work better than we ever had with other partners, the city, the county health department, the other shelters and things, to create a coordinated system. And bit by bit, we came up with protocols and ways of getting PPE out there. And there was a professor at Pitt who provided us testing materials way before anybody else. Yeah, it's about love. And we don't get to exercise love directly very much, maybe in our personal lives, but I think love should work its way back into our society more. And I'm lucky. My field is just, it's right there. Sloppy sometimes, but it's really right there, and I like that a lot.
Okay. Love you. Thank you for that amazing work, Jackie. If you're a student and want to get involved, Pitt students have taken the message to heart and made their own street medicine organization here on campus. You can also check out the Street Medicine Institute yourself and learn how to get involved. With Pitt to the Point, I've been City Beat reporter Tori Pushman. Vineet, Jackie?
Thank you, Tori. Coming up, we have our incredible sports recap with Josh Feldman and Mia Wadilla.
So don't go anywhere, and we'll be right back with Pitt to the Point. Welcome back to Pitt to the Point.
Pitt sports has had an incredible year, haven't they, Jackie?
Yes, they certainly have, Vineet. From an ACC championship for our football team, a Heisman nod for quarterback Kenny Pickett, to an extremely successful season for our volleyball and soccer teams.
Our Pitt sports reporter Josh Feldman has our sports recap for you.
Fall sports brought a string of success to the Steel City as both women's volleyball and men's soccer made impressive tournament runs. Volleyball went as far as the Final Four, knocking off UMBC, Penn State, Kansas, and Purdue before falling to a tough Nebraska team that eventually went on to win it all. Men's soccer, on the other hand, picked up tournament wins against Northern Illinois and Hofstra before meeting conference rival Notre Dame. They were unable to avenge a loss to them earlier in the season. And that's not all just yet, as we now take a look ahead to this spring with softball looking to improve on last year's 17-29 showing, and Pitt lacrosse looking to put the ACC on notice in their inaugural season.
Star of the game, Kieran Ratliff-Kilborn was honored as Student Athlete of the Week for her performance last Friday as she netted 4 out of the 9 goals and the first goal in Pitt lacrosse history. I was lucky enough to score some time with Kieran earlier this week. Kieran, how did it feel to finally step out onto the field after spending so much time preparing for your first ever game day?
It was the best feeling. I mean, walking into the locker room pregame with all the other seniors, just seeing everybody's uniforms was so surreal, and hearing the starting lineups and actually being able to walk on the field fully uniformed, decked out, and all the Pitt fans, it was the most exciting thing.
And Kieran, you were also named Student Athlete of the Week along with Ethiel Horton from men's basketball. What was your reaction to earning that honor?
That was so cool. Prior to being on the team, obviously I was on the club team, so I'd follow Pitt athletics and I'd see, every week new athletes and the soccer players and all of that. And I think just seeing my name on there was so cool and almost surreal.
Chloe Jones, Paige Petty, Kate Elam, and Carly Leach also netted goals to contribute to the win. You have not one, but 2 chances to head out to Highmark Stadium this weekend to be a part of history and support Pitt lacrosse. They take on Siena tonight at 5 and St. Bonaventure Sunday at 12. Don't forget, admission is free for all during the inaugural season. Up next, we have Pitt softball, who traveled to Leesburg, Florida last weekend to open up their season at the Northern Lights Invitational. Freshman from Mount Pleasant, Pennsylvania, Haley Brunson was named to the all-tournament team for her performance over the course of the weekend. Brunson sported a team-high .471 batting average and 3 runs. Pitt softball currently has a 2-3 record as they head to the Texas A&M Invitational in College Station this weekend. They will go head-to-head with Missouri State, Stephen F. Austin, Texas A&M, and Kansas. Mark your calendars. Your first chance to catch Pitt softball at home is March 16th at 5 p.m. against longtime rival Penn State.
I, along with many others, am looking forward to seeing what these teams can accomplish this spring. For Pitt to the Point, I'm Pitt sports reporter Josh Feldman. Mia?
Spring training sprung late for Major League Baseball's 2022 season. Being the second longest lockdown in MLB history, the MLB and MLB Players Association has yet to make a decision on a new collective bargaining agreement as of February 28th. City Sports reporter Andrew Mundy's interview with DK Pittsburgh Sports' Alex Stump discussed what the remainder of the Pittsburgh Pirates spring trainings might look like.
The Major League Baseball lockout continues as the collective bargaining agreement discussions have yielded very little results up until this point. But what exactly is the CBA, and why can't the players just play without one?
The collective bargaining agreement is the contract that Major League Baseball and the Players Association have to actually play games. They usually go in 5-year increments, and the last one was extended in December 2016, and in December of 2021, the two sides were unable to reach an agreement for a new contract. The problem is both sides have very different interpretations of what is fair. This week has been really the first time that they've actually had some significant negotiations, because Major League Baseball instituted that February 28th deadline for, to get the season started on time on March 31st. And players feel about the same way. Both sides agree that there needs to be about a month-long spring training. Last couple of days, they have had multiple meetings, multiple negotiating sessions, but it still has very much been, we have a proposal where we moved an inch here, and we have a proposal where we moved an inch here, and they are just so far apart that an inch really isn't enough at this point in the junction, considering how close we are coming to that doomsday clock hitting midnight and regular season games being postponed or potentially canceled.
Although players on the 40-man roster are unable to play right now, those left in the minor leagues are able to get their reps in. With the Pirates having the third best ranked farm system in the league, there sure is some intrigue currently happening in camp.
That there's just so much depth there that you have to bank that, a couple players out of that group are going to emerge. With the high level guys that they have on top of that, it's starting in 2022, but really kicking in 2023 and 2024. There are going to be a lot of good young players coming through this system, and a lot of that comes to how they develop these guys.
With the February 28th deadline coming up, when might we be able to see normality resume?
Just chit-chatting, not to attribute it to anyone, but just talking to coaches, talking to front office people, there is a sense of optimism around there that real baseball, Major League Baseball, is going to figure this out, that they're actually going to have a season work that way. Now, that obviously is far from guaranteed, but if you're looking for any optimism, there is some in Pirates camp that, this will get done this week. Major League Baseball season will start at the end of March, and the second longest lockout or work stoppage in baseball history will finally come to a close without any actual games being lost.
The MLB's opening day was set for March 31st. Opening day is now pending until April 7th, when the Pirates head to St. Louis and take on the Cardinals. The Pirates made statements to fans and season ticket holders on March 1st, announcing they will be credited for the schedule's delays. Pirates fans can now access tickets to the new home opener date set for April 12th against the Chicago Cubs. I'm Mia Wadello, Pitch to the Point City Sports reporter, sending it back to Benit and Jackie in Pitt Studios.
Thank you so much, Mia. Pitch to the Point's Chase Murphy had the chance to catch up with Pitt's Quidditch Club.
This club sport revolves around the fictional sport from the fantasy book series Harry Potter.
Let's see what Chase had for us.
No shortage of interesting and exciting clubs at Pitt, but one of the most unique has to be the one that has students riding broomsticks and chasing golden balls around campus. This week, we're featuring the Quidditch Club. The organization, inspired by the fictional sport from the hit Harry Potter book and movie series, practices twice a week on the cathedral lawn. And with the stoic Cathedral of Learning's unofficial nickname being Hogwarts, due to its resemblance to the Gothic castle from the series, it seems fitting to have the club represented here at the University of Pittsburgh. But the dedication and passion of the club goes further than just matching aesthetics. Spencer Riesig, the vice president of the club, told us more about the sport.
Quidditch is a team sport consisting of 6 people on each team. There's 3 chasers, 1 keeper, and 2 beaters. It's pretty much exactly like is described in the books.
Spencer explained how competitive Quidditch gets and the physicality of the sport, tackling and all.
The contact rules are similar to rugby, so it's pretty physical. People do get injured, people get hurt, but it's on rare occasions that happens, and mostly it's just for fun.
One of the main elements of the sport is riding on quote-unquote brooms, which Spencer broke down for us.
It does look kind of goofy. You do run around on brooms, which are PVC pipes. It's something that you have to stay on broom the whole time, otherwise you can't score. Despite the awkwardness of holding the broom between your legs, it adds an element to the game that is entirely unique to any other sport that you'll ever play.
The members of the club take it very seriously, treating it like a real sport, and competing against other Quidditch teams at colleges around the country and even traveling for tournaments.
We travel around the United States, competing against other schools such as UVA, Penn State, WVU. We're actually going to nationals this year, really exciting. Our team is really good, and we're excited to have a really great season.
Drew White, the business manager of the Quidditch Club, told us how he was introduced to the club and what it means to him now.
Quidditch was kind of a joke at first, coming in freshman year. Before I came to Pitt, I was joking with high school friends like, oh, what if I joined Quidditch when I got to college? But then I saw them at the activities fair. I showed up, I wasn't too sure what it was gonna be like, but as soon as I got there, I was pretty hooked. It was just such a really great group of people, and the game was so fun. And here I am 4 years later. Some of my best friends are definitely on the team. Quidditch is a big part of my social life. Quidditch parties are some of the top tier out there.
Obviously, a love for the Harry Potter series is at the center of the club, but Drew informed us that you don't need to be a Potter fan to enjoy the sport and thrive in the club.
Obviously, a big theme of Quidditch players is being Harry Potter fans, but believe it or not, it's not always that case. Probably about 90% of the time, though. We have had some people who have played 4 years on the team and never read a book or saw a movie. Shout out Steven for that.
One thing is for sure, the Pitt Quidditch Club has nothing but love for the sport and for each other. And whether you're a Hufflepuff or a Gryffindor, it all stems from the fantasy book that has captured the hearts of so many.
Personally, I am House Gryffindor. May be kind of basic, I know, but we've got all 4 houses represented on the team.
As you heard, the Quidditch Club is hoping to head to nationals in Salt Lake City, Utah this April.
And they could use your help. So if you would like to donate or just keep up with the Quidditch Club, head on over to their Instagram at QC Pitt.
Pitt alumnus Marcus Dubois invented an app that is now being used by musicians across the country.
And after the break, find out about how Marcus and how this app, Flip Folder, is making a huge difference for bands nationwide. Stay with us.
H2P is short for Hail to Pitt, our Panther fight song. But we also use it to express just how much we love it here. There are so many reasons to hail, but here are just a few. Hail to Kathy! Hail to the Nationality Room.
To WPTS Radio.
Hail to Oakland.
Hail to Shenley Plaza.
Hail to Forbes Avenue.
Hail to the towers.
Hail to Cardiac Hill. To Hillman Library. Hail to the University of Thrisburg.
Hail to Pittsburgh.
Hail to Heinz Field.
Hail to Pitt.
Welcome back to Pitt to the Point. Pittsburgh has become a premier technology hub from startups to social media giants.
That's right, Benny. Pittsburgh has been at the forefront of a technological flock, and among these tech developers is Pitt's very own Marcus DuBroy.
Yes, Marcus's app Flip Folder has garnered global attention, which is why we are very proud to feature him in this special alumni spotlight.
It's Marcus DuBroy. It's funny because I'm not even French. It's a French last name, but it's like dad's dad. Graduated in December of 2019. Got my degrees in both computer science and music composition, starting about end of sophomore year, beginning of junior year. I started this app called Flip Folder, and what it does is you can start a performance in the app and select a song, and it will just come up automatically on every single device in the band. There's notations, there's basically any feature you can think of that might be useful for viewing music.
Well, Marcus had been in the band, and we had started using a box for music for the students. And it was kind of clumsy. It didn't work as well as we had hoped it might. And Marcus decided on his own, I'm going to develop this app and all of the things that he would want in it that would help us, and make it a lot easier for all of the players. So I knew nothing about it until one day he emailed us and said, hey, I've been working on this app. Is it okay if we give this a try? Here's what it'll do. I said yes.
I'd have to say it's been a pretty good asset for the Pitt band because just having the ability to know what your music is, not to have to pull through everything, it's not going to get wet. It's just your phone. And so it's very accessible. It's very easy.
Well, first of all, there's a big sense of pride about it. Like this was developed for us. We're the first ones to use it. It helps a lot because we can move more quickly. We don't have to spend time, copying music and passing music out. If we hear something in rehearsal and go, boy, I didn't like that, we're going to rewrite this part. We can do that in an instant. If we decide, we've got a short little tune we want to play at the next rehearsal, we can write it, put it right in there, and be ready to go right away.
Basically, I was just in band at a game, and I had a moment there where I was in the stands, and I just kind of thought, well, all these people are disconnected. Like we had a moment where they mentioned a song, put it over the speaker, and there half the band I could see weren't even flipping to it because they were just too jaded. So right then and there, I just thought, well, okay, the phone isn't just a screen. The phone's got Bluetooth, the phone's got internet, the phone's got NFC. That right now, all the music viewing apps that existed, we're only using it as a screen. Dr. Brad Townsend and everybody involved in the band staff being so accepting of this was really a big thing for me, because if I'd have gone to them and said, showed them the app, if their reaction was, oh, we can't use this, it didn't work, then everything would have stopped there. So if you're a student who's looking to be more of an entrepreneur, think about those more niche solutions, because you're more likely to create a product that is unique.
Marcus established his tech development group, Band Savvy LLC, while he was still an undergrad back in 2018 here at Pitt. As of today, Flip Folder currently serves upwards of 70 college bands across the country.
In July 2021, J.W. Pepper, the largest sheet music retailer in the world, announced the purchase of Flip Folder and the acquisition of Marcus to their team. Up next, we have Livia Rappaport and Ryan Floyd to tell us about the Japanese Film Festival.
Thanks, Vineet. The pandemic has seen a lot of local theaters struggling to get audiences back in seats. But one of our local theaters is bringing back one of their favorite events, as seen here in this package by former entertainment reporter Ryan Floyd.
For the first time since before the pandemic, Row House Cinema will be hosting the Japanese Film Festival this upcoming month. I sat down with Row House Cinema's marketing manager, Kelsey Zamich, to discuss the upcoming festival.
The Japanese Film Festival, this will be its 5th year running. We've actually been on a 2-year hiatus since the pandemic happened. So for whatever reason, we kind of fell into a tradition where our opening night is cat themed. So this year we'll be showing the Island of Cats. We'll have live cats on site and have like cat swag bags. It's actually almost sold out. So that will be our opening night. Our closing night would be a brew and view, kind of a row house event that we do a lot, where we choose a movie and serve beer. It's obviously 21 plus at key moments in the films. So we'll like pick moments, kind of like write a little description of it, and then we serve it on themed beer that we just bring to people's seats. So we have, it's kind of cool because it's a very much like, you know, Japan's been putting out amazing cinema since they were making silent films. So we have some older films from Kurosawa, and we have like a 1960s samurai film that's really great. It's actually Roger Ebert's favorite samurai film. And we even have a silent film in there from Ozu, which is cool because it's like very early career for him. And we have our Japanese game show compilation where we just like cool clips of crazy Japanese game show moments, because Japanese game shows are like off the wall. And that's super fun. We did it once before. It's a house-made movie. It's a really fun night. We do that, and we have a tea tasting and a Japanese whiskey tasting as well. So it's a pretty jam-packed schedule. I mean, I will say our theater reopened in September, and we've spent the last few months really learning how to run a theater safely during a pandemic. We have a vaccine or negative COVID test requirement. So, you know, anybody planning to come to our theater needs to show their card or have a negative test with them in the last 72 hours, you know, and just kind of like everywhere else, increased cleaning. You know, we've been really successful. We haven't had many problems. We haven't had any like staff outbreaks. So I think that, you know, we're very fortunate in that we have a very compliant and, you know, cooperative group of customers and staff, you know. And I would say like the first year we did it, I think it was only 1 week long. It was just a handful of movies, and we've just built on it until we've gotten to this point where it is a 2-week festival with 15 titles I think we have this year, as well as, you know, a handful of super fun events that we're really excited about. I think it's going to be our best festival ever.
The Japanese Film Festival begins on March 18th and runs until March 31st. Tickets are available on rowhousecinema.com. For Pit to the Point, I'm entertainment reporter Livia Rappaport. Back to you, Jackie and Vineet.
Thank you so much for that, Livia. Now, our next story is my favorite story, Jackie. It is about how pet therapy is one possible way for Pitt students to take care of their health.
That's right, Vineet. I gotta say, it's one of my favorite stories too. What better way to relieve stress and cure those winter blues than with therapy dogs?
Exactly. I couldn't agree with you more on that, Jackie. Therapy Dog Tuesdays are back on the first floor of the Cathedral of Learning.
Therapy Dog Tuesdays came back to the Cathedral of Learning on February 1st. At Pitt, Therapy Dog Tuesdays start at 7 p.m., where volunteers from the Humane Society bring their dogs to visit students. It gives students the chance to relax and just have fun. Therapy dogs work with their handler to spread affection and comfort to members of the public. The visits are part of the College Canine program and are provided by the Western Pennsylvania Humane Society. This week, we took an inside look of some of these friendly dogs and their owners.
My name's Bridget, and this is Clancy. We've been doing this now coming up for 3 years. It just brings so much joy to me, too. You know, I see what it does for everyone here and how much it relieves stress for people. And it's just rewarding that way to me, to be able to share him with everybody.
Tigger is named Tigger because our other dog was Winnie. So now we have Tigger. Ever since he's been 8 weeks old, we work on him being very low-key, able to approach every situation without getting scared or without scaring people.
The Humane Society conducts an 8-week therapy dog prep class that covers common animal-assisted therapy scenarios. They also review obedience skills, work through exercises, and even provide opportunities to shadow active therapy dog teams in the Pittsburgh community. If you want to find out more information about therapy dogs and how to get started with volunteering with the Humane Society, find their website at animalhumanesociety.org. Pitt students and staff, if you want more information on when and how to play with these cute pups like Clancy and Tigger, follow Therapy Dog Tuesdays on Facebook at pdt.pitt.
How cute was that, Vineet? To find more information on when and how to play with pups like Clancy and Tigger, you can follow Therapy Dog Tuesdays on Facebook at www.facebook.com/tdt.pitt.
And you can also find out more information about therapy dogs and how to volunteer with the Humane Society on their website at www.animalhumanesociety.org. And so thank you all so much for tuning in this morning to Pitt to the Point, your news source, number one, for all things happening at Pitt, all the way
to the point. And thank you so much to our partners KDKA and CBSN for their incredible support.
And make sure to tune in next Friday for another exciting episode of Pitt to the Point. Once again, I'm Vinny Joshi.
And I'm Jacqueline Napier.